Life's too short to drive boring cars. Look at all these great cars here. There must be some great deals on some of these used machines. Think again, because actually, a cheap used luxury car is a very expensive car to own. Let me explain now. So likely you've heard the old adage, a car is the second most expensive investment in a person's lifetime, second to their home. So generally speaking, people know what they have when they're selling their used car. In other words, they're not going to give it away. People pay a lot of money when they buy it in first place, and then when they turn around and sell it, they have a pretty good idea about what that car is worth based on all the other comparatives within the marketplace. So if you think you're getting a great deal, think again. Have you heard the sayings, nothing in life is free? Well, it's very true. Have you also heard the adage, nothing worth doing is easy? And that generally speaks for an automotive industry as well. It's not going to come easy. It's not going to come cheap for you as the buyer. So it shouldn't be of a huge surprise. Luxury cars are very, very expensive when they're brand new. I mean, look, we have this beautiful BMW M6 here. I mean, just look at this car. How can a car like this be cheap when it's new? M6, you've got carbon fiber, obviously you have a twin turbo 4.4 liter V8, actually that makes about 600 horsepower. Huge calipers, great styling, amazing wheels, and even some great wings and touches. Let's not forget the big exhaust system that comes on these cars as well. So how much do you think those brakes cost? They're not like a Toyota Corolla. How about that big titanium or stainless steel exhaust system? If there's a problem with that, how much is that going to cost? How about the gas guzzling, oil guzzling 4.4 liter twin turbo V8? That costs money not just for maintenance, but as well repairs. 2 turbos, 2 of everything, 8 cylinders, lots of expensive repairs there as well. So a used car doesn't get cheaper just because you can get it for 30% of its original MSRP price. As well, let's not forget, generally speaking, parts, they're going up. Let's not forget about labor rates at the shop, constantly going up. So at the end of the day, even though you get that car for fractions on the dollar, you're still going to take it up every time you take this car to the shop to get it serviced. You have to take that into account. And generally speaking, the worse condition the car is when you find it, the more you're going to have to play catch up and get some of those parts replaced and it properly serviced. So in case you're not totally sure about how much some of these parts can actually cost you when you buy a used luxury car, well, I'll give you some examples. Years ago, I had a Porsche 911 Turbo. The engine was worn out and it was time for a refurb. Well, it cost me about $20,000 to get it totally serviced. That wasn't even a new engine. That was actually just rebuilt. New parts within as well. Talk about the Porsche PDK transmission. That's their dual clutch transmission in a Macan. I've heard many stories where customers had the transmissions fail. You're spending as much as $8,000 for a rebuild and as much as 20 grand for a full-on replacement. So I've also done some research and I want to explain to you a little bit more about what we have here is a BMW 7 Series. Now this is a 750, this has the 4.4 liter twin turbo V8, but the 760 is the V12, and I'll kind of reference both of them, but they're very, very expensive as these are the flagship BMWs. I mean, this is a beautiful car, and anybody who wants the premier luxury vehicle in the BMW lineup, this is where you're gonna go. Obviously, this has every piece of technology you could ask for in a modern luxury car. I mean, you've got oversized rims by BMW. You've got some great accents. If that thing breaks, that's expensive. Rockers that are very, very interesting. Don't dare scratch or break that. LED taillights. It's a 750, as I said, so that's the V8 twin turbo, and it's X-Drive, so it's all-wheel drive. How about exhaust system right there? Very, very interesting. And as we go down the side, we can see it's very nicely contoured. You've got soft touch, chrome accents, and you've got LED strips on the mirrors. How about sunroof? Yes, you betcha. And of course, you've got all the LED on the front end and the latest from the kidney grille design. But the problem with that engine is this is the twin turbo V8 engine, and it's the N63, and it's a hot V. So the turbos are between the V, and that essentially creates too much heat in there. And that heat then starts to wreak havoc on some of the internal parts, starts to burn and melt down valve guide seals, valve covers, wiring, and you wind up with excessive oil consumption throughout. And there is an actual recall on that, but unfortunately, we won't even talk about the $250 oil change that you'd pay for this vehicle. How about the fact that you have to put in a full quart of oil, fully synthetic, every single 1,000 kilometers because this thing eats oil like it's going out of style. Each one of those quarts of oil, about $15. Very expensive just to keep it going. We will also won't talk about the fuel consumption. These cars are very expensive to run, but I'll give you a few examples of some key repair items that you can expect to see in these vehicles. So in the 7 Series, but we'll talk about the 760, which is the V12 engine, did you realize it can cost up to $4,500 to replace AC compressor in this unit? How about the alternator? That's what consistently maintains the charge and keeps the battery tip-top. Well, the alternator in this can cost you about $2,700 US to get that fully replaced and serviced. And how about the wonderful BMW M4? That's their hot rod coupe. If you had to change a fuel pump in that car, you're at about $3,600 all in. And so not everybody's buying the top premier BMW luxury cars or the top Audi vehicles. How about something simpler? Like this, we have the BMW X1. This essentially is BMW's bottom line SUV. As you can see here, we circle around, we have the X1. Now you can get a few different engine variations throughout the years in these vehicles. Obviously you get the great exhaust tips. These vehicles come with 1 and 2 exhaust tips. And they got a cool sporty little finishing on there. How about lots of glass on the top? And a slightly muscular hood. What about the headlights? Classic BMW, and the grille as well. Has the great wheels as well. And this one here is the X-Drive. That's all-wheel drive 28i. That means it's the turbo 4-cylinder engine. So it's a great, affordable little package, but it is still considered a luxury vehicle. So I'll give you one example. A very common service is the serpentine belt. Runs through your alternator and all your other auxiliaries, and that serpentine belt to replace on these vehicles is going to cost you upwards about $550. I mean, what could otherwise be a $30 belt, parts and labor is going to cost you almost $600 all told. So nothing's cheap. That's a very cheap service, and unfortunately you're going to pay even quite dearly for that as well. So you think these high maintenance and service repair costs are just a BMW issue? Absolutely not. I'll give you another couple of examples. How about an Audi timing belt on most of their models is going to cost you about $1,500. How about a water pump on an RS7? That's their hot rod sedan. That's going to cost you about $2,000 to get that retrofitted. That's right, nothing comes cheap on these cars. Doesn't matter if you get the car for half of its original value, you're still paying dearly. Now, I'm not trying to scare each and every one of you away, because there's actually a benefit in buying a used luxury vehicle. You just have to know what you're up against. Unfortunately, running without warranty is a huge risk, but just think of it this way. If you happen to have, say, a gearbox fail and you anticipate a $20,000 repair, if you get that car for $60,000 less than it was brand new, that's still actually a win, and your dollar's in the pocket. You still get to drive the wonderful luxury car and take in the full experience of what it means to drive an M4 or an M5 or even a 760. The benefits are absolutely immense. So I'm going to share with you some tips right now that are going to help you get through this if you're shopping for a used car, and it will hopefully prevent you from overpaying and getting in the end. So tip number 1 is always test drive the car if at all possible. I mean, these are all great cars, and you'd like to take people's word for it, but until you get behind the wheel or even get to sample 1 or 2 or maybe 3 versions of the same vehicle, you won't necessarily know if there's a problem. But you should not only get it out on side streets, city streets, you should actually take it out on the freeway to make sure there's no strange noises and that the car feels as responsive and connected to the road as it should. For example, you shouldn't get any shimmying, you should get smooth, quiet. The vehicle shouldn't pull to any sides, especially when touching the brakes. It should stay straight and true. But listen for grinding noises in the differential. Listen for the engine. Rev the engine up and down. Make sure there's no strange noises coming out from under the hood. Tip number 2 is make sure the seller lets you take the vehicle in for a PPI or a pre-purchase inspection. If they don't let you take that fancy, shiny BMW into the shop right there and be able to drive it in there and have it checked out, don't walk away, run away. Because that means they're probably hiding something. In other words, pre-purchase inspection is going to find a lot of problems. They're going to look for the general safety issues, the brakes, the tires, all of that wear and tear. They're also going to check the condition of the oil. They're going to check the running. They might even put it on a scanner and check out if there's any codes outstanding. They'll check recalls. They'll do all of those ins and outs. By taking it to the dealer, they'll know all the nuances for that particular vehicle, and that's very, very important. So it's great if you can come on down to the dealer, look around, get in, feel the car. But what if you find a car that it's across the country, for example? Because unfortunately now with the market as thin as it is for used cars, you're having to spread out your wings a little bit out remotely. You might have to go search for a car that maybe is across the country. And unfortunately, if that's the case, getting there to inspect the car might be difficult. So A, you want to definitely make sure you're buying from a reputable dealer, but B, be sure that you ask them for a whole host of different things other than a pre-purchase inspection. If you know somebody who lives in that area, get them them to go down, give it a good once over. But ultimately, if you're doing a remote purchase, do a FaceTime call with the sales personnel. And obviously, number one, you want to do a cold start. You're looking for weird noises, for example, cold rod knock. Also looking for unusual smoke on a cold startup. So the cold start's the best place to look. Also, don't forget them to do some pans. Look at the seat bolsters very up close. Look at the underside of the spoiler, because often that takes a beating from curbs. People run the cars up curbs all the time. So you want to make sure that that bottom edge isn't all beat up. If you can, get them to pop the hood, get a real good look under the engine compartment. See if they can even shine flashlights down into the lower bowel regions of that engine. See, look for maybe oil, coolant leaks, any of that kind of nonsense. If they can even do it and the car happens to be on the hoist, even better. If you can get a chance to look underneath with the belly pan removed, because most of these modern vehicles have these pans, I would get them to pull the pan off and have a search underneath. Again, during a FaceTime, very important you get a good look underneath there. Now, it's not unusual for real shysters to give the whole car a real shampoo beforehand, and that is also an equal telltale if the car's too shiny. For example, maybe the car's 10 years old and it looks brand new underneath, and it looks like it might have been cleaned, then chances are they're probably hiding something. Or unless there was a major repair just done, in which case they should have service history on that repair. Also, I would get them to demo all the electronics, try all the windows, get the air conditioning running, make sure you can hear everything running, get the lights going, get them to do a walk around while they're flashing the lights, left, right, left, sunroofs and windows and all the remote power features. Make sure all the dashboard elements work. Now, a lot of these newer vehicles, they have digital dashes. Make sure everything's functioning there, because those are expensive if they fail. So you want to make sure that they do a good walkthrough in a similar way that you would if you were looking at the car in person. So you want to make sure you're satisfied with what you're looking at. So realistically, you want to buy these cars from somebody who cared about the car. You want to see a car proof and a Carfax to make sure there's no big collisions or accident claims against the vehicle. You also want to see all of the service history available. If you're buying the car for somebody who actually loved it, chances are they're going to have most of those records. If you're buying it from one of those shady little crusty car lots that you see all over on the random corners, and the guys have no history, have no knowledge, and they're just saying, I don't know, well then guess what? Maybe that's time to walk, because chances are they're hiding something and playing the stupid card. So get away, walk away from those cars as well. So once you've done all these checks and you're satisfied and you've got the deal that you're happy with and everything checks out, then maybe it's time to pull the trigger. But remember, ask yourself this question: if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And with all of that said, be sure to click right there. That's a list of the worst engines in the market today. You're definitely going to want to avoid those. Hope to see you in the next one. Catch you real soon. Bye-bye.